Okay, so let's take a look at the grow room here slash overwintering room. Actually used to be my book room when I sold books on eBay, but that market sort of fell through the bottom, so now it's a grow room. This video is going to be more so about the setup here. It's pretty simple setup really, and less about the plants. You've already seen most of these plants in my previous 3 garden videos. There are a few different plants here, and I will be showing a little bit about those. To begin with, we'll cover the setup here. This is just your standard type of tables that you would find at any big box store like Lowe's or Home Depot. 30 inches wide, 6 foot long. This is actually 2 of them here. The name brand of this table happens to be Lifeline. But all of these tables like this are pretty similar. I took all the hardware off this top table and flipped it upside down so it could be a catch-all for all the water and dirt and everything. Now when I took the hardware off, it left this big gaping hole here in the center. The table was solid, waterproof, watertight, other than this big gaping hole right here in the center. I filled it in, and it's still, it's still sort of soft and pliable, but it's not tacky, which was a big problem for a long time. I filled it in with a product called Lexel from Ace Hardware, and it's a good product, but I don't really recommend it for this procedure because it's kind of expensive. It's like $7 a tube. It comes like in a caulking tube. And it took me about 5 tubes, believe it or not, to fill this in. Way too expensive for what I'm doing here. And it remained, since it was so thick, like that thick in Lexel, it remained tacky for 6 months. And even beyond that, it wasn't usable the first 6 weeks. And for several months thereafter, when I put a pot on this, it was just so tacky, it was just really aggravating. I avoided sitting anything here for the longest period of time. And now after a year, it's in great shape. I can sit anything there at all, anything there I want to now. But I don't recommend the Lexel for this little project here. I don't really know what I would recommend, but definitely not the Lexel. Okay. Whoa, what are you doing there, Susie? Yeah. Yeah, you have to always visit me. Not time for ice cream yet, okay? Not quite time, but maybe eventually, huh? Okay. Okay, moving on here. This is just kind of a generic brand of light. It has 8 T5 bulbs. One good thing about this setup here is you can turn 4 of them on at once, or all 8 of them on at once. When you can have either your outside bulbs burning, or your inside 4 bulbs burning, or all of them burning at one time. When I have only just a few plants, I have only 4 of them burning at once. But as you can see here, I'm pretty much full boat almost on the plants, so have to run them all 8 at once. 54 watts each. So when you're burning all 8 lights, that comes to 432 watts, which actually is quite a bit. But in this room, it's not so bad electricity-wise, because in the wintertime, I need a little heat in here anyway, and this is generating a fair amount of heat, even though it is fluorescent. So the plants need a little heat, so I don't feel like I'm really wasting that much. I could go with LED lighting. I need to read up more about the LED lighting since it is so much more efficient. But if I did that, then I would have to have a little bit more heat in this room. Also, I should mention that I leave these lights on for 18 hours and off for 6 hours every day. Between this light fixture and the top table here is 30 inches, and which seems to be about right for the size plants I've got right now, and also for how wide I want the light to be dispersed, because as you can see, I do have some plants all the way down this side here. So if you have your light too low, the light will not go wide enough to cover all this. These plants here are sitting on a bookcase which is turned on its side. I put a 2x4 here to kind of support this end of the bookcase. So that's a good thing to put here, because most tables would be too wide, and it would be hard to get the things here in the middle of the grow table to water them all. So this narrow table here works out really well for this. Over here, I just have some plants on the floor, and they seem to be getting a pretty good bit of light cast on them from this particular grow light. I showed them outside already. This is the cigar plant. I've already done cuttings on, and these particular cuttings on the cigar plant are right here. Well, part of them's right here, and I just want you to look. Some things just root better than others, and you can see roots. They have aerial roots on them. They're rooting so good. So and it's only been like a couple of weeks, if that, maybe 10 days, and you can see just how easily these things are to root. The only other things so far I've run into which are this easy to root is the Mexican heather. The Mexican heather did exactly the same way. It just shot out roots just like nobody's business. And most of the other plants none of the other plants I've tried so far has shot out roots to that extent. Right here is this is the candy corn plant here on the floor. I've already took cuttings off of it. There's another cigar plant. And right here, you've not seen this. This is a Pride of Madeira. It's a type of Echium. It's native to Southern California. Of course, it's being zone 7 here. There's no way it would survive, so I had to bring it in. I grew this from seed. This plant is approximately 8 months old. Grew it from seed, and it stayed outside all summer long. And it's been a little bit problematic since I've brought it inside. It's 17 inches tall. It's been inside 2 weeks and has not grown any. As a matter of fact, you can see the sparseness of leaves on the bottom. In 2 weeks, it's dropped, I would say, half of the leaves that it did have. So I'm a little bit worried about how it's going to do. I've been experimenting on how much or how little water to give it. My latest experiment here, which has only just begun, is to water this thing thoroughly only once a week, and I'll see how it does. Actually, the leaf drop has already slowed, but I don't know if that means a whole lot, because with only half the leaves of what it had to begin with, it has to have slowed, because you're only working with half as many leaves as you did have. This sends out just absolutely ginormous purple spikes. The pollinators are supposed to love it. It's going to be a lot of trouble, I can tell that, hauling it inside and then back out. I put it on a little hand truck type of thing to bring it in here. But it's going to be interesting if it makes it. I would have swore it would make it, but since it's lost half the leaves already, don't know. We shall see what we shall see. I'm going to turn these lights off and show you the bottom of this light fixture. These particular bulbs are T5s. 54 watts, 6500 Kelvin, and there's 8 of them here. I turned them off, of course, so it wouldn't blind me to death while I was showing you that. And another thing about this light fixture, here on the end, it has a plug-in, which is pretty cool. I've utilized this numerous times for various things. And these lights are attached to the ceiling with some hooks up here, not an I hook, a J hook, question mark hook, or what kind of hook you want to call that. And down here on the bottom is, I don't know, like a two-sided hook, whatever what you want to call it. And the cool thing, of course, about this particular setup is it's very easy to adjust the height of your lights. You just rehook this right here in any length of chain you want to, and boom, instant height change. And another plant you guys haven't seen yet is Silene regia, more commonly known as royal catchfly. This is a Native American plant. I actually feel kind of bad about buying this thing because for some reason, even though it said Native American, it didn't dawn on me at the time that you can actually plant these from seed. So I actually bought this plant, and it's a small plant. I overpaid for it online, and I've been nurturing it along. It was in sad shape when it got here, and this is the best it's looked. With the growing habit of these plants, they don't really have that wide of spread on them, so you need quite a few, like a dozen anyway, to make any kind of impact in your garden. So I wish I had just planted seed. I may still plant seed because this one here, it's growing so slowly, it's going to take quite a while to propagate this thing. But it gets, how tall does it say it gets here? 2 to 4 foot tall, full sun, and has really nice red blooms on it, which the hummingbirds like. And I know I have more hummingbird type plants than I do anything else, but a lot of the other pollinators will frequent the hummingbird plants as well. Okay, let's cover my pots here, I guess. This right here has always been, for my grow room, my go-to pot. This pot here is about 5 inches tall, and the top of it is 4.5 inches in diameter. It's got a little slight taper. Just a good sized pot. You can put a lot of pots in on this table of that size, big enough to where, you know, the plant can grow a little bit without the roots getting strangulated, yet small enough to where you can fit a lot of them on a table. This is the most pots I've ever had in here. I never have had to put you know, an extra side table here. And over here in this shelf, I've got another 12 plants over there. Right here on the Mexican heather cuttings, which I have a large amount of, at first I thought I'll just put part of them out in my hoop house. And yeah, I think Mexican heather is a zone 9. And even in the hoop house, I know a perennial is going to get, you know, burned and go all the way back to the ground, but on a 25-degree day, it got singed pretty good, just like that one there. And as you can see, this is one that's been in here the whole time. So I just, even though I didn't really need these extra ones, I just felt bad for them. So I went out there to my hoop house and brought them all back in. So that's one reason I've got so many plants here, because I've got an awful lot of Mexican heather. Okay, let's move down the list of a few other plants which you guys have not seen from me yet. Red mandevilla bush, and it is a bush mandevilla more so than a vine. Although it does have some vining characteristics, it really is more in the bush category. I'm going to put it out in the kettle out front where the Endurascape verbena is. That was such a bust this year. I've grown this before. This particular one was $1 end of season plant from Walmart. And I've grown it, like I said, I've grown it before, and it can be absolutely a stunning plant. I've even overwintered one before, and the next season is when it was the most stunning. So I'm hoping this will be really make a statement and impact out there, just front and center in that kettle. I know it's not a pollinator type plant. Some people will claim that the mandevillas are pollinator plants, but that's not been my experience anyway. Maybe somewhere else where they don't have anything else to eat, they'll frequent them, but not here so far anyway. I have a row of 6 plants here that we've not covered yet. The first one is hummingbird mint, Agastache canna rosita is the cultivar here. So, pretty good looking plant. These plants kind of were in sad shape a couple of weeks ago when they came in. Was a little bit worried about them, but they actually have shaped up. So, yeah, I'm pleased with the way that they're coming along. This one here is still a little bit hinky looking, but I think with a little TLC, it'll do okay. Second plant, which is probably the best looking one, it's nice and bushy. This is another hummingbird mint, Agastache Blue Boa is the name of this one. I'm really anxious to see how this one does. The next one, I'm super anxious to see how it does, even though it's not the greatest looking of them, of the bunch here so far. This is not an Agastache, it is Giant Sage, Blue Flame Salvia pachifila. And it's supposed to have blooms on it, just twice as big as your normal salvias. Next we have another hummingbird mint Agastache Desert Solstice. Then we have another hummingbird mint Agastache Coronado Red. And lastly, we have a Caryopteris First Choice. If you'll remember, in my main garden out on the side of the house, I have several Caryopteris Black Knights, which I really like, and the bumblebees absolutely love the stuff. And the only thing I don't like is that it does not bloom till frost. And they're a late season plant, but they just won't quite make it till frost. And I'm hoping this one is supposed to be one of the later blooming of the Caryopteris. And I really don't think it'll have an overall longer blooming period than the Black Knight. But if it starts later, you know, maybe I'll have kind of an offset season there where it will pick up and take over from the Black Knight whenever it dies out bloom-wise. So there you have it. That's pretty much it. I guess one thing I've not mentioned is that I do miss these covers on my cuttings for sure 2 times a day, and lots of times 3 times a day. Eventually I'll be putting a few seeds in here if I can scrounge out enough room to put them. Everything's just pretty full right now. So I think the next video up will either be a little short high-def bird video, or possibly I bought a garden utensil called an extractinator to pull up shrubs, small shrubs with, invasive shrubs. I think a lot of you know, Forest Service and things, people like that, people who just root out invasive species use this thing, and other ones similar to that. So that's something to look forward to. Anyway, that's it. So long, everybody.